Super Mario Odyssey, one of the biggest speedrun games of all time, and, in my opinion, the best one. I initially picked up the game in the first lockdown around 2020, and I wanted to see how low I could get my time before it was over. Little did I know I would be in my house for the next good part of a year, so I ended up dropping the game before lockdown even ended. However, before dropping it, I managed to play the game for a good 4 months, and I managed to whittle my time down from over 2 hours to a 1 hour and 15 minute time. And while this was decent for the time, it has since fallen almost 400 places on the leaderboard. And since I was feeling a motivation to play the game again, I decided to set myself a challenge. And learning my mistake from my last video, I would not be setting the challenge as a time I would need to reach. So instead, I gave myself 1 week of speedrunning Super Mario Odyssey to see how much I could get my time down. Would I even remember the route? Would I beat my PB from 2 years ago? Or would I maybe even manage to overtake my last placement on the leaderboard? This is what I set out to learn on day 1. I started off day 1 by playing through the game from start to end to just try and remember the route. And to my surprise, the only times I forgot the route were in Seaside and Metro Kingdom. Because of the fact that I was also stopping to practice things, this run of the game ended up taking me a bit over 3 hours. I then decided after finishing my practice, I would get in 1 run just to see how well I would do. And this resulted in me getting a very respectable time of 1:18. And I didn't record it. I did not press the record button. I had OBS up, I had the splits on it and everything. It just was not recording because I forgot to press the button. I'm stupid. I then finished off the day by practicing things that I was having trouble with and headed off to bed. I started day 2 with a little bit of practice, but then got straight into runs. And while I did start off with a fair few resets, let's just say that the first run I got to the end went kinda well. Yeah, that's right, the run that I put 4 months of my life into perfecting was beaten by almost 2 minutes on my second try. And while this was an absolutely insane achievement to get this early into the challenge, let's be honest, it was a complete fluke. Which meant I would need to practice religiously if I was going to catch up with this time in this next week. So that's what I did for the rest of day 2. I went through and watched Tomshi's entire speedrun guide for beginners of the game on 2x speed, and tried to implement a ton of those strategies into my route. Because my route was from the old small ant guide, which is apparently very outdated. This was a long day, but it was worth it. And after 5 hours of practicing these strats and trying to implement them into my run, I was finally ready. So I headed to bed, ready for day 3. Day 3 was easily the day that I was playing the most consistently. Unfortunately, consistently does not always mean consistently well. I was consistently playing well enough to not reset in the first 10 minutes, but not well enough to even finish a run. In fact, this trend of gameplay was not only consistent for this day, but the day after as well. I would be consistently saving time in split after split after split until eventually just making a ton of mistakes in a row and resetting. This happened so consistently that there were 3 separate times where I'd get over 35 minutes into a run and then reset, without ever even getting a good run in between them. I lost the first of these runs by falling into this Pepto-Bismol looking shit 2 times, which left me on 1 health, which then led me to die at the end of the Spewart fight, which is the furthest you can make it without getting another checkpoint. This next run was also lost in Luncheon Kingdom, even though I went in with almost a minute of time save. Firstly to dying in the same Pepto-Bismol, secondly to dying in other Pepto-Bismol, and thirdly to falling off this pillar into Pepto-Bismol. Fuck! In my next run, I also had a minute of time save going into Snow Kingdom until I fell during this bridge jump, accidentally killed this Goomba causing me to restart the room, and fell off this twisty bridge. All of these mistakes caused me to be a little upset. I'm so fucking mad, oh my fucking god! So naturally, I stopped doing runs for the night and moved on to day 5. After getting home from school on this day, I immediately started playing. I went through the entire game and I would practice each kingdom repeatedly until I got a time I was happy with. And to say that this technique was effective would be an understatement because of what I would achieve on this next run. I had done it.
After fluking a time that I didn't even think possible going into this challenge, I had managed to grind my way into getting a time almost a minute faster. But somehow, I still wasn't satisfied. Sure, I know it was a good run, the best one I've done ever even, but I knew that I was capable of more. But for this day, I was done. So I moved on to the final 2 days. After coming off the back of a pretty successful run, you'd be thinking that I'd be playing pretty well. Well, no. I had once again fallen into the trap of thinking my runs would need to be perfect and resetting after every single mistake. And even when I did manage to make it fairly far into the game, I had once again found myself with 3 separate runs where I would lose all of my saved time with some random death. Why does this keep happening? The first of which to dying twice in this poison room, the second to falling into deep woods, and third to dying during this mech fight, losing multiple minutes of gameplay. As you can probably imagine, failing this many runs got me pretty tilted. This would mean that the rest of day 6 would just be me progressively playing worse and worse until I couldn't stand playing anymore. So naturally, I got off for the night and would try again the next day. What I didn't consider when doing this, however, is the amount of time I had left myself in the challenge. As the next day after I got home from school, I would still have to go to work, meaning instead of having 8 hours to try and get in my final runs, I would only have 3, which left me with 2 options. I could either just start doing runs the instant I got home, giving me more resets, or I could practice for an hour and a half and just pray that the run afterwards would be enough. And knowing that I had absolutely no chance of playing well enough to PB without practice, I decided to go with option number 2. And after getting in my practice, all there was left to do was finish one last run. One hour, 10 minutes, and 46 seconds. This time would take me to the 769th place on the leaderboard, which is almost 100 lower than my original time achieved. I honestly couldn't ask for a better result than this, and the fact that I got it on the last possible run makes it feel infinitely more special. Will I ever come back to try and improve this time? Maybe, but for now, I think I'll leave it at that.